Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're switching things up a little bit, just for you. We're diving into a collection of really basic English sentences. The kind you hear all the time, everyday kind of stuff. But there's a twist.
Okay.
They all use can and will.
Huh. It's really something, isn't it? How much we can kind of tease out of just looking at simple words like can and will. I mean, they seem basic,
Right.
but once you start picking at the edges, you can really see all these shades of meaning and how much power they hold.
It's true, and that's what I'm excited about. We've got this huge stack of examples,
Yeah.
and I just want to see what we find. Let's start with can.
Okay.
Okay, I mean, we see it everywhere. She can play the guitar.
Right.
Can I borrow your pen? All over the place.
Well, and that's because can is what we linguists call a modal verb.
Okay.
Which basically means it kind of tweaks the main verb, adds in little bits meaning like, is it possible?
Right.
Are you allowed? Or are you even able to do something?
So when I say, can you pass the salt? I'm not really asking if you're physically capable.
Right.
It's just a polite way to ask.
Exactly. Can has this built-in politeness that you don't really get with other verbs. Like, think about it. Can you help me with this? Is a lot harder to say no to
Right.
than a straight up, will you help me?
That's true.
Yeah.
Wow, I never really thought about how can soften a request. That's so interesting. It's almost like sneaky persuasion or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we see this pattern over and over in our examples.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? Can I get your opinion? It's everywhere.
Yeah. And the negative form can't.
Right.
That's equally interesting. It's all about, limits and boundaries. You can't park here. It's a fact.
Yeah.
Not a suggestion.
It's amazing how those two little letters totally change the tone.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got can for present possibilities and abilities.
Right.
But then we have will, which seems to be all about the future.
Yeah. Will is how we mainly talk about things we're going to do or things we think will happen.
Right.
Like, I will call you later.
Yeah.
The meeting will start at 10 a.m.
Yeah.
All pointing towards the future.
So will is how we talk about what we expect to happen later. And just can we use it for all sorts of things? Promises, predictions, even just schedules and stuff. I mean, we see it everywhere in our examples. I will finish this report, or the train will arrive soon.
Right.
And of course, we can't forget about won't. The opposite of will.
Right. The negative.
Yeah, refusal or something you just can't do.
Yeah, or something you think won't happen,
Yeah.
I won't be able to make it, the package won't arrive on time.
So basically, the can't of the future.
Exactly.
Okay, so can for the present, will for the future. But is it really that straightforward? I feel like there's more to it, especially when we talk about the future.
Yeah, you're definitely on to something. There are these little but really important differences between how we use can and will when we talk about, things that haven't happened yet.
So it's not just present versus future. There's more nuance.
Exactly. Let's dive into those nuances.
Okay.
Shall we? Okay, so let's say we can finish this project by Friday.
Okay.
That kind of suggests it's possible, but maybe depends on other things,
Right.
It's we're able to do it, but we're not totally committing to it just yet.
But we will finish this project by Friday. Sounds way more definite.
Right.
Like a promise or a hard deadline.
Exactly. Well, in that case, it really shows you're determined.
Okay.
You're committed to getting it done.
Yeah. It's not just you can do it.
Right.
It's that you will do it.
Exactly.
What about when someone says, I can try to make it? Doesn't that sound less sure than I will be there?
Yeah, for sure. But the future, it often means there are conditions,
Well-
things outside your control. I can try means there might be obstacles.
Right.
I will be there is saying you'll overcome anything to get there.
So can is kind of more flexible.
Yeah.
It can change with whatever happens.
Right. Adaptable.
And will is more like taking a stand
Yeah.
no matter what.
Exactly. And this is really important when you're trying to figure out
Right.
what someone really means or how committed they are.
Yeah.
Really pay attention to which word they use. Are they giving themselves wiggle room with can?
Right.
Or are they making a strong statement with will?
This reminds me of when I was learning Spanish.
Uh-huh.
Their future tense is so different from English.
Oh, yeah, totally different.
It made me realize how much we just assume will be there and how much we pack into just that one word.
It is fascinating, isn't it? And that's what makes language so cool.
Yeah.
It's not just about giving information. It's
Yeah.
about shaping how people see things,
Yeah.
showing your emotions and like navigating all the social stuff.
It really is like a secret code full of little hints and layers.
Mm-hmm. And the more we crack that code,
Yeah.
the better we become at actually communicating.
So it's not just about speaking correctly.
Right.
It's about using language strategically
Yeah,
to get what you want and connect with people
exactly.
on like a deeper level.
Now, we've talked a lot about just can and will,
Right.
but they're always in a sentence, right?
Yeah.
Surrounded by other words that change how they work.
So the words around can and will are important.
Absolutely. They provide context like a landscape.
Okay.
So take, she can play the guitar beautifully, that word beautifully.
Right.
It doesn't just describe how she plays.
No.
It actually makes her ability even stronger.
Oh, I see.
It's not just that she can play, it
Mhm.
means she's really good.
So just one word
Yeah.
can change it from basic ability
Right.
to like real skill.
Exactly. And we see the same kind of thing with will. No matter what, after will makes it sound way more determined.
Yeah.
Like, I will finish this project no matter what.
Yeah, that makes sense. But with all these like subtle changes,
Mm-hmm.
how do we keep track of it all? It feels overwhelming.
Don't worry, it's not about memorizing rules.
Okay.
It's about noticing how can and will are used.
Okay.
Pay attention to the words around them.
Yeah.
The more you do that, the easier it gets.
So it's about like developing an ear for language.
Yeah.
A sense of how meaning works.
It is. It's like tasting wine.
Mm.
You don't need to be an expert to enjoy it.
Right.
The more you taste each part,
Yeah.
the better you understand the whole thing.
Okay. That's a great analogy. And speaking of tasting and understanding,
Mm-hmm.
we've talked a lot about verbs,
Right.
but what about who's doing all this canning and willing?
Ah, yes, the subjects, the actors.
Yeah.
They can tell us a lot about like who has power,
Okay.
who makes promises, who sets limits.
Like he can fix anything, or he will be the CEO one day.
Exactly. Those sound pretty traditional, right?
Yeah.
About masculinity and ambition.
And then you have something like she can bake the best cookies.
Right. And comparing those,
Yeah.
we can maybe see some patterns in how we talk about gender.
And even in simple sentences.
Yeah, so even choosing your subject
Right.
can be loaded with cultural stuff,
Hmm.
reinforcing stereotypes and expectations.
So language is like a mirror, showing our society's norms and values.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to be aware of these biases
Yeah.
that sneak into our language.
It's not just about getting the grammar right.
Hmm.
It's about understanding how we use language
Right.
and what effect we have on the world.
Now, getting back to what we were saying about will in the future,
Okay.
expressing intentions predictions.
Yeah.
Well, there's one last thing
Ah.
I think you'll find pretty interesting.
Okay, I'm listening.
Yeah.
What is it about will and the future?
Well, we've been talking about like how we use will,
Mhm.
to express our own intentions and stuff.
Yeah.
But what about when like the subject of the sentence isn't even a person?
Oh, you mean like the sun will rise tomorrow?
Yeah.
Or the train will be late?
Yeah, exactly. We've got tons of those.
Right.
And that's where things get kind of weird. We're not just talking about what people want anymore.
Yeah.
We're giving that will to the whole world,
Right?
even to things that aren't even alive.
So it's like when I say my phone won't turn on, I'm acting like my phone has a mind of its own.
Exactly. Like it's choosing to resist you.
Right.
And this isn't just like a random English thing either.
Really?
It's way deeper. This whole idea of giving human qualities to non-human things.
Hmm.
It's called anthropomorphism.
Okay.
And we do it all the time
Yeah.
in all sorts of cultures and languages.
It's true. I never thought about it. But
Yeah.
like, I say things like, the traffic is against me today all the time.
Right.
Or my computer is being stubborn. It just comes out.
And that's what makes it so interesting. It's like this way of thinking,
Yeah.
this mixing of human and non-human.
Uh-huh.
It might be like built into our brains.
Mm.
It's like we're programmed to see the world through a human lens.
So it's not just about will as like a grammar rule.
Right.
It's about how we understand reality.
Exactly. It really makes you wonder, does anthropomorphism make us more empathetic You know, like more connected to everything around us?
That's a good question.
Or does it just blur the lines too much, you know, between what people can control and what's just nature? Does it maybe make us feel helpless sometimes?
Those are some big questions.
Yeah, and I don't have all the answers.
Me neither.
And that's okay. These deep dives, they're not always about finding like the perfect solution.
Right.
Sometimes it's more about just asking the right questions.
Yeah.
Admitting that language and thought can be really messy.
So where does this leave us, listener? What have we learned from all this talk about can and will? I mean, we started with grammar,
Right.
but we ended up talking about politeness and cultural biases and like how we see the world.
It's a lot, right? But I think what we really learned is to pay attention to language.
Yeah.
Can and will. They seem simple,
Right.
but they opened up this whole world of meaning for us. They showed us all this stuff we just take for granted and how much complexity there is under the surface.
It's like we've got these new glasses to see the world with.
Like a decoder ring.
Yeah. A way to understand the hidden messages in everything.
Exactly. And knowing that is powerful.
Yeah.
It helps us be more careful with our words,
Right.
more aware of how they affect people.
And more able to say exactly what we mean.
Right. This wasn't just a grammar lesson.
No, it wasn't.
It was about understanding how language shapes everything.
Our thoughts.
Our relationships, how we understand the world.
This has been an incredible journey. We started with these everyday sentences, and wow, look where we ended up.
It just shows you that the most amazing things can be hiding in plain sight.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So keep exploring, listener. Keep listening and questioning.
And most importantly, keep diving deep into language and all its wonders.
Until next time.